Hello class, I hope you're having a good week. I wanted to make this quick video on chapter 1, pitch notation. So far you have been working on understanding where the notes are on the treble clef and the bass clef, and as you are aware, you have an assignment due this week, so I wanted to give you just a few more notes for those of you who may need some extra work or extra understanding on this topic. So let's start with the staff, 5 lines and 4 spaces. So as a reminder, the staff has 5 lines and 4 spaces, and we use those 5 lines and 4 spaces to place notes upon. We talked about 2 different clefs. The first clef that we spoke about was the treble clef. All right, there's our treble clef. And remember, our treble clef identifies the second line as G4, or the fourth G on the piano. So I'm going to put a piano here. If you remember, if you start here, there's G, and you count up, this would be G1, then G2, G3, G4. So that G, the second line, refers to G4. Now, if we know where G4 is, we can place the other notes on lines and spaces. For example, this first space would be F. And of course, we know this line is already G. This space would be A, B, then C, D, E, F. And of course, we can also write notes on top of the staff. Of course, that would be G again. Now, I want to remind you that in terms of the octave numbers, they don't change until we get to C. So for example, if we start with G4 as being the second line, this A on the second space is A4. This B is B4. Now, once we get to this C on the third space, this becomes C5, okay, or the fifth C on the piano. Okay, now the D is also D5, the E is E5, E5, and then F5, G5. There we go. Well, let's see. There we go, G5. All right, I'm going to write that again down here. So treble clef, and remember the second line is G4, okay? So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, so we have A4, B4, and of course when we get to C, this is now C5, D5, E5, F5, G5. Okay, oops, sorry, G5, not G4. So let's try that again. G5. There we go. All right. And remember, when we want to extend the staff, we add extra lines, and we call those lines ledger lines. Ledger lines are only needed when we write notes above the staff. Now, notice the G5. Let me just change my colors here. Change it to blue. This G5 is written on top of the staff, so there's no need to place a line on top of it. However, when we get to this A right here, we need to add a line to the staff in order to write A, and of course this would be A5. I should also note that we're able to write notes below the staff. So for example, I'm just going to come over, let me just write it on the top staff right here. Below the staff, this would actually be D4, and let me also write in this E right here. This is E4. Okay? All right. So make sure that you pay attention to the lines and spaces that you're writing notes on, and that you pay attention to the octave number. Again, the octave only changes when you get to C. All right? Now, let's go to another staff Still want to deal with the treble clef. One ledger line below the treble clef, remember, okay, I'm kind of OCD, so let me try to, well, there we go. Let's just try that. This is C4. In other words, the fourth C on the piano. All right, so that's the treble clef. But we can also write notes on a different clef to indicate notes in the lower register of the piano. And we call that the bass clef or the F clef. Now, notice that the two dots here surround the fourth line of the staff. That note is actually F3, so the third F on the piano. And in the same way that the notes follow the lines and spaces in sequence on the treble staff or the G clef staff, they do the same thing with the bass clef or the F clef. So, for example, the fourth line is F3, the space below is E, then the next line is D, then of course we have C, B, A, G, and of course, just like we can write notes below the treble staff, we can also write notes below the bass staff. And let me just go ahead and label these. The E, this is actually E3, D3, C3. Now remember, every time we pass a C, we change octave. So I'm going in descending order. So that means that after this C3, or in this case before the C3, we actually have the second octave. So this B would actually be B2. This is A2, G2, and then F2. F2. All right. Let me just get another staff here and still continue with the bass clef. All right. Let's start at the bottom this time. And this time we're going to start with a ledger line. One ledger line below the bass clef is actually E. Okay, this would be E2. And then, of course, you already know this is F2, which would make this G2, A2, B2, and of course, remember when we get to C, the octave number changes, so we have C3, D3, E3, F3, okay? And you can continue with the alphabet names. Okay, so we just go ahead and write D3, E3, and F3. Now, remember on the treble clef, let's just go back and look at that. The line below the treble clef, or the ledger line below, was C4. So that same C is written one ledger line above the bass clef. So this is also C4. So in other words, C4 below C4 below the treble clef, or one line below the treble clef, is the same thing as writing one ledger line above the bass clef. So both of these C's, both of these are C4. And one of the things that you want to focus on as you are working on your assignments is focusing on where all the C's are. So of course, one of the things that we can do there is look at the treble clef in relationship to the bass clef, okay? So two ledger lines below the bass clef is C. The second space on the bass clef is C. One ledger line above the bass clef is C, which is also the same as one ledger line below the treble clef, okay? The third space above the third space on the treble clef is C, and then two ledger lines above the treble clef is also C. So let's look at the labels for these C's. Okay, you first have Of course, we know that one ledger line below the treble clef is C4, one ledger line above the bass clef is C4, which would make this next C on the third space on the treble clef C5, and an octave above that would be C6, okay? Going backwards, the second space on the bass clef would be C3, and then of course the first C that I wrote, two ledger lines below the bass clef would be C2. Okay, I hope this helps you on your assignment. Feel free to contact me at andrew.lewis2 at hinescc.edu, or you may leave me a voicemail at 601-857-3269 if you have any questions, or come by my office. I'm usually there in between classes, and office hours should be posted on the door. Let me just write my email address here, andrew.lewis2 at hinescc.edu. Of course, you can also go into Canvas and use the communications tool there, and I receive emails that way as well. And then, of course, the telephone number is 601-857-3269. And then you should have my mobile telephone number in your syllabus information. Okay, I will see you this week, and have a good time working on your assignment.